Alrighty. Kevin, how are you doing today? Trick question.
I have an idea and I forgot.
You have an idea? Well, I have an idea.
What's your idea?
My idea is we're going to go over my favorite butterfly guard sweep.
The Gordon Ryan?
No, not the Gordon Ryan. Totally different sweep. The Marcelo Garcia sweep.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. My favorite. It'll be quick.
Butterfly to X?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do with it, which if you watch Gordon Ryan, you'll see.
We're doing the Gordon Ryan or the Marcelo?
Marcelo.
Oh.
Otherwise known as the Gordon Ryan.
So am I here? You want to be here?
No, let's do it's a sort of the simple way to learn it. Let's try this way. Is the person is gonna like kind of crowd you. Sometimes it'll be here, and the person's trying to like grab your head, right? So wherever they are, you're gonna come underneath. Sometimes at No Gi Worlds, the guy he took me down, and then he kind of just sat in here, right? And so in that case, put your head the other side, right? So usually you want to go to this inside hook here, and you see you just do kind of this gable grip, and you just pull this down. So this makes this really hard for your training partner to get out. And it's actually better if they try to like grab your head. So if someone is coming up and trying to grab your head, this is actually better. So sometimes you'll have somebody in your guard, they don't really want to do anything, or they're just trying to stall out a little bit. So if you can make sort of this frame, and then you dig this in, you see how I go, don't try to get it, well sometimes you can get in here, but I like to get right at the elbow. I'll show you why in a second. And then you're gonna do like a little palm to palm or gable grip, whatever you want to call it. And then the key thing is that you want to pull this down to your chest, right? So that it becomes difficult. So now, you see how Kevin cheated? He brought his elbow back in, or back straight. So yeah, you kind of want to keep this elbow bent so that it becomes hard. Because if they straighten the arm, now they start bringing that elbow in, right? So we want to kind of elevate your elbow a little bit. And that makes it a little bit harder for them to straighten, but I'll show you what to do if they straighten as well. You just break it, all right? So we're here, now we're starting off in the butterfly guard, right? So what I like to do from here is, I guess it depends on where my training partner is leaning or trying to get out, or whether they're trying to move or stay or whatever. So when we're here like this, I always kind of feel where their weight is. Now, Kevin right now, he's going towards a little bit to my left. Sometimes they'll try to straighten, like kind of get their, they'll try to come. So they'll either go try to posture up, right, foolishly, they'll hurt their shoulder, right? Or they just try to move towards me, right? Yeah, and they try to like, move their hips over, right? Trying to clear the butterfly.
Do you get jumpers ever?
Oh yeah, I like jumpers because then you just take them straight over. And then you get on top, so it's like a free sweep.
You gotta be ready for it though.
I guess the easiest way, like, so if you're just starting off and you're training with other people who are more or less just starting off, and you get in here, a lot of times they're gonna try to hold your head, which is the easiest way to sweep here. So from here, all you're gonna do is, and now this is like super important, this elbow, is I wanna turn and make him look that way, right? And then you're just gonna ride him over. Boom, here, all the way up, and now you're, and I like to not go into the mount, I like to go to knee on belly. And then if you still have this here, you can start coming into the Kimura kind of thing, short Kimuras.
Do you like that little reverse arm lock?
Oh, I love it, reverse arm lock. I do this. I get it on the floor though a lot.
On
So
the floor?
yeah, so I'll show you. I mean, there's different finishes. Sometimes if you're in closed guard, I mean, it's just as easy to do this. You can be here, the person's really trying to drive forward, all right? That's the easiest. So when you're here like this, especially if he steps up on his right foot. So if he steps up, when we're here, you're gonna circle that in, and then you take him over. Now, what I was saying is on the floor,
I get it.
is this one here, where I come in, right? And I'm gonna kind of do like a shoulder drive into his arm, and then lift this up. It's hard to show. It's super nasty. It's a Henzo special. Super hurts.
That used to be my favorite thing when I was white belt, blue belt.
Like
sweep him in the mount, get the...
Just don't let go of this. Right, so the person's here now. usually they're either trying to push into you or they're like drive in, like yes. So here, I'm gonna I'll turn my hips a little bit. Kevin's being very obliging, right? And so it really makes it easier. The more they drive into you, the more it becomes simple. And then you see, like you'll be here, you can take them out, but I like to windshield wiper my leg all the way over to knee on belly. And then you have this arm. And you can do different things with this. I like to just pull it right in, right? You just keep that gable grip and then just pull the elbow and then flare your elbow. And that gets onto the shoulder. All right, so there's that one.
I don't think you're highlighting what you're doing, like very active with your frames here.
Yeah, you have to, I'm really kind of not going that hard because you're not going that hard, but the more kind of violently and forcefully they drive into you, this is super important to keep your frame. And I'm also pulling down, so it's like this, like a torquing motion or circular motion. So if you're just here, right, even if I make the hook, right, so he steps up, and I make that hook is worthless if I don't use my arms. So if I just keep my arms pinched and I try to hook him, it's not gonna work, right? He can sit here all day. In fact, if I'm lazy with this, he'll step over it. Yeah, and then I'll be in bad shape. Right? So when we're here like this, I'm pulling and I'm turning with that elbow. So it's real important that you get this under his jaw, right here, boom, right? And so from here you see, I'm already moving his head. Now the rest of his body. And then you'll see, I windshield wiper my leg over, and we're right here.
That's where the head goes, the body follows thing. The old adage.
That's 100% true.
One thing I might add, this is something that I do as the person on top. Because a lot of people are taught, right, like don't attack from close guard, right? So people take for granted the actual danger here. So you need to be very vigilant with this frame here, because if you let someone come in here, even if you're in their close guard, if they're strong or assertive, like I'm gonna get down here and I'm gonna start choking you, even though I'm in your close guard, just because you didn't react fast enough. So don't be complacent, actively be maintaining that frame. And
yeah, this has to be, you know, you have to be, right here. I don't know, you're not gonna get it across, you know, but yeah, like you said, if I'm just lazy with this, yeah, you're gonna push it across, right? And we don't want that. So if you push it across, you're gonna have to start swimming your arms back in, and then he's out, and he's gonna be wise to what you're doing, right? So this is a type of thing where, I don't know, some people keep making the mistake of trying to grab your head. So whenever anybody tries to grab your head from these positions, like this is kind of what I like to do. Let's go this way. So you guys can see, if I start off in close, so look at what Kevin's doing. This is a can opener, so this is totally illegal, right? But totally illegal. So the idea here is, you guys don't know, this is actually a great technique if for a fight or MMA or, GSP uses this a lot. It's a neck crank, right? But if he gets it really tight, it becomes really hard for me. This will tap you. I have to tell you, there used to be a guy when I first started Hensley's who was probably like 230, and I was like a blue belt. It was probably like 170, 160, and he would pass my guard every time with this. And because I was like, oh, this isn't a finish, I would sit here and my neck would be sore for like a week, right? Don't be that person. Don't be me, right? When you're here, if you feel somebody, you have to onto the chin, right away. And then he's not being nice to you, so you don't be nice to him, right? Like he's not trying to be your friend if they do this, so you should know. So the good match, a good fight to see this in action, Chael Sonnen and Andre Galvao. His Chael was on top, he kept trying to like hold and can opener Andre, and then he switched from that into the chin push on Andre Galvao, right? Yeah, so he's doing this, trying to pass Andre's guard. Man, I think of all the asshole things that I've ever seen Chael Sonnen do, that one was probably the one that I was like, he's a dick. Yeah. I hated that, and I was so happy when Andre Galvao tapped him out.
Was that ADCC?
I don't think it was Abu Dhabi. I don't remember where it was, but it was like this, we even met Morris.
Oh, that makes sense.
But a good match just to see like a kind of a nasty wrestler on top. And he's a big guy, so he's a good wrestler. So he gave Andre some some temporary troubles, and then Andre
Good.
finished him. So he's Andre Galvao. That's why he's Andre Galvao. So we're here whenever, yeah, I mean, you want to do this, like I always try to keep that center position, right? So if I feel anybody, you should always be here anyway, like hand fighting, keeping your kind of the middle, the center line. Unless you want to grab, like you want to get an overhook or something like that, you shouldn't be giving people a direct line to your head, right? But even if you do, even if they get in, you want to come up underneath really quick, okay? So this is just like a good, and then if they keep going, right, you have some arm lock opportunities. They'll get his arms back real quick. So that's just there. But even here when guys, I've had a lot of guys, they just try to come in real tight. But you see what happens. The first thing is that, no, when you grab my head, right, that frame is the first thing. He's giving me the underhook, right? The underhook is the easiest thing in the world to get. So this is a good thing for just, even if you're just starting out in jiu-jitsu, all the way up to the highest levels. Like this sweep obviously works, right? I mean, if Jordan Ryan can hit it on Bushesha, it's a good technique. And Marcelo won a bunch of Abu Dhabis on this one, right? So this is the first thing, and you have to keep your elbow, like if you see my elbow is down in the beginning, because like Kevin's saying, if I'm just lazy with this, he'll push it across, and I won't get it back, right? If people do that, right, if they push across, you just got to circle. But then he's going to be, and he's framed, right? So I don't mind people, but you have to have this frame. I don't mind people grabbing my head. I mean, I'm not going to let them do it, but I'm going to keep this here, like that, right? Now I'm not going to go for this sweep. Right now, he's not really pushing into me. So if I go for the sweep now, it's not going to work. Yeah, he's just going to push my leg down. Let's go this way. All right, so if we're here and he's kind of neutral in his position, right, and he's not pushing forward, he's not coming this way, right, it's foolish for me to start trying to push him like this because he's not moving with me. So he's not going to the direction of the sweep. So unless I get a really deep bite to make his head go that way, which, you know, like I'm friends with Kevin, so I'm not going to do that to him. But, you know, maybe you can force them to come that way, but I think this is much better when the person drives in. Yes, and then you see how I duck my leg, and I'm making this hook over here, my right leg. Hook here, all the way over. So, that's that.
So if they don't drive, what's your SOP?
All right, so good question. That was the next point. All right, so Kevin now, he decides he is going to stay at home, right? And he's not coming this way. He's not driving into me. In that case, that's where I go the other direction. So when we're here and I feel like Kevin's not coming to me, I'm going to start turning here. And you'll see it breaks. I mean, eventually it'll break that. And then I come across, like over it into this, and I try to get my hips back, right? So I'm posting on his hips, and I have the reverse arm lock. Okay, and then for this one, I'm just gonna go all the way down really hard. There's different ways. The problem, there's different kind of setups on this one. Like sometimes, like if you get into this position, you can start pulling the elbow, turning the hips, and you see my foot goes into his hip, right? And I go. But you can hold, right? So sometimes I like if this arm is here and I have the space, I'll grab underneath. You can see my fingers here, and I'll pull it, wrap it, and then go. Right? So you guys see, you can do this one, right, as another palm to palm, which is what I'll do when I don't have the space, right? So if Kevin's here and I have to break, right? If I'm here, I'm not going to have the space to go up to here. So that way I just go straight onto it. Extend my hips until I can get to this position. And you see I'm driving with my legs, right? Now, sometimes what happens is he comes back into me, right? He drives back in. You turn your hips and you go the other way. So these go hand in hand. And you have to be prepared to go both ways.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Nothing.
What?
Nothing.
So if he's here like this and he's chilling, right, I'm going to turn. So I'm not, in this case, what I'm trying to do is really turn my hips, right? So stay tight. He's here. I'm going to turn. See how I'm like almost shrimping out to make this bottom hook into his hips first. So this keeps the
So you're like
it's like a frame.
away.
Yeah. So this is a frame because if I don't have that frame, you just drive back in or you step over it. So I really want to be here, right? I put that foot in the hip, right? And then I'm going to turn. I put the other foot in the other hip. I still have all this framing. And now you can really come here. And we're in this position here, ready to Now, if you want, right, so sometimes this will get out, right? You'll turn it, right, and then drop your elbow, right? You drop your elbow, and you can come up and take the back. So, or you can go over on the arm lock.
Is this supposed to go like this?
Yeah, you turn your elbow in. That's usually how they get it out.
Try that again.
Let's turn it this way. So if we're here, shrimp out, he goes. Yeah. So from here, it depends on what you want, right? Like you can come up and get onto the back here.
What if I roll into a truck? Oh,
Well, then you have you've done a better job than me in controlling that position, right? So yes, there are. But to go back, I mean, I've seen some people. They'll be here, they go, and maybe they miss it, right? They drive, and then they come over. This is one of yours that would be favorite. See, you like that one, and then you just go back onto the arm lock.
I like hooking the foot behind the neck.
Oh, yeah, this one here.
That
Yes, and then you're gonna roll through on it, and then break it before you get to the bottom. You just break it.
Sorry.
So there's a lot of things like when that arm goes across, don't be surprised by that. It will happen sometimes.
Expect it and use it.
You know, don't be surprised by it. So you should drill it to the extent that this, you know, we're here, right? Think about here, even here. Oh, I like that one on the face, right? Here, and then you go into Kevin's arm. I think you'd be really good with this. So if we're here.
So we're thinking about.
So here now, I'm not gonna, yeah, so if I come that way, or if I stay high, you're gonna take me over. Oh, I don't know what that is. Oh, bam, okay. Choose your own adventure. This is it, good stuff. And then, so if we're here, so you can have, like, I don't wanna go that way. But a lot of times you step up on this foot. Oh, there you go. Whoa, that's bad. Whoa, guillotines. Sorts of nastiness in here. It depends on what you like to do. And there's didn't break my grip. I like how you sit up there. So the guy here is probably gonna but look, arm drag.
I wasn't expecting to lose the elbow.
So yeah.
I need to get my frames
Yeah.
so that I can
Yeah.
sit up. And then if I lose.
You have triangles here. If you look, I mean, you can triangle me here. Here. You know, it's really because you have my arm. So it's either you have the arm and you can work. Because if you push me this way with this, like if you push me, I have to post, or else I'm going to go over.
Mm-hmm.
So once I post, you have all sorts of stuff that you can do. All right, that's a little Ryan Hall there. Make it post and come up.
We're doing something.
Whoa.
We're coming here.
Yeah, that's all bad.
What I really like is how much pressure you can get on the shoulder. What I usually try and do is like really pull this in and stretch them out, and then hang my body off of it, so that they're always under this tension. And then even as I screw my hips out, I'm just hanging.
Yeah.
And you can put in a tremendous amount of force with very minimal effort.
It depends on your relative length to your training partner, right? So if you're taller or you have longer arms, you're gonna be able to do a lot more hanging.
Yeah.
When you're shorter, like you're like a koala bear, right? So
Aubrey does that a lot, where she'll like attach you with a gable grip, and her whole body is attached to you.
So I mean, it's always, to me, it's always like what the situation is. I don't like. I mean, if you're up and you're just hanging on for a minute or whatever, and you're just gonna hold on to the person, fine. But I would say this is like a super powerful position that you should use offensively. When I get to this position in training or in competition, it's kind of like I feel it's my situation to lose. You know what I mean? Like I should be finishing on this.
Well, I think like it's not just for hanging, but the fact that you can hang so much weight, and you can kind of localize it on one part of your shoulder where that's supporting all my weight, and then now my feet are free to kind of walk myself up.
Yep.
And one thing I think that people don't focus enough on is like having a really strong.
You got to keep your
tight
elbows
grip.
tight.
People get really like loose.
Can't get
with it,
stretched
and
out.
It's not going to be the same thing. You got to pull into your center, and you've got to put some effort into it. It's
Yeah.
an investment.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think the most success I have with this is when people are very aggressive, driving down or across, or when people are being very static and they're just kind of clamped down and they're just going to hold on,
Yeah.
right?
That frame is really, really good at helping.
And I think the other thing that I would stress is don't be, go back a little bit, don't be afraid to switch sides, right? So sometimes you'll be in here, right? And you'll go, or you know what a lot of times what I do is I'll do this. They'll be here, this is how I set this up, another way I set up when they don't grab the head, is I like to come here, come up. If they put this hand on the floor, I'll come underneath it and grab it. So, you know, sometimes you could be here, I go like that, and then if they put their hand on that floor, here I come underneath. And if you guys see, you want to be careful, come back, turn this way. That you want to like glide right under here. So Kevin has a nice little notch right there. Right, you can't, it's kind of like right here. If you can feel there's this little bony part of your arm, right here at your elbow. So if you can connect, I try to connect like this part of my wrist right underneath here. And you see my elbow is attached. So I'm not doing this. I'm not like fishing for this because you can just circle out, right? So what you want is, you see my elbow, and then when I go in, it's like the same thing as when we do the scoop grip for leg locks, right? I'm here, and I'm not pulling with my arm. Here, I'm pushing off my leg and my hips. So here. And so if he keeps it straight, that's fine. If he does this, it's the same thing we were doing before. Is you either have this one where this is like a little short Kimura, or you can go right to the real Kimura if you feel comfortable. Sometimes it's a little slippery, right? So, you know, I catch this a lot when I'm going from side to side. So I'll be here, right? I step in, right there. And I have my foot on the other side of the hip already. Here, bring that knee up. So you see it now, I'm feeling he can't get his arm back. I have a couple different points of contact. Here, if you want, you can start doing that. Yeah, that's okay, right? If you do this, you can start coming in to the legs if you want, right? So that's not a bad way to start coming out onto the legs. So this is also a really good thing, which is why it works so well with leg attacks, is because it creates this incentive for the other person to step up, create the space, you know. There's a lot of things, like, you know, like if I just put my hand underneath my leg and you put the leg and there's all that space, you're going to spin underneath, you're going to take the Kimura, right? Or the leg. So it creates a lot of dilemmas for your training partner when you get in on that. And these are just things that I like to do. You guys just saw, if you watched 5 minutes ago, you're going into like guillotines, triangles. You know, the possibilities really here are up to each individual in terms of what they want to do. Yeah. But go. Try to think about going both ways. Being sensitive to like how the person is driving, where their weight is going, and that's going to give you. And sometimes you can start to pull them or like take them one way, and then the more they go the other way, you're creating Kazushi essentially from the bottom. The more they go to the other side, now you can go. Marcelo does this one to the other side. So he doesn't take the sweep always. I think in the beginning that's like the jump. So what he does, and I've seen other people do this too, is, and this really works well with this one, right? So if we're here, they take them this way. They make them roll that way.
You make me.
Yeah. So they come out and they drive so hard. You were doing this to me right now, just before, right? You come here, the person drives up, and comes up. So if you get the person, it's really what requires a person to be moving in that direction, right? So if you're hanging, like before you were hanging, right? So if I do this and you take me over, I have to go over. You see? So you can still use that sweep.
Even if you have that base hand.
Yeah, it won't matter because you drive so hard onto the, and the space is there for me to roll.
Yeah.
So you're forcing me to take the roll.
So the best option there.
I mean, otherwise, in fact, it's probably the best option because if I don't take it, you're gonna guillotine me, you're gonna triangle me, you're gonna omoplata me. So, and this happens usually pretty fast. So the person's here, they're not going this way. You just take them hard, and you don't even get that hook in there, but you don't even. A lot of times you don't need the hook. Yeah. And so then you can just be creative in terms of how you want to finish or take advantage of that situation. But I think the technical term for it is the shoulder crunch sweep or the sumigation sweep. I've heard that.
One thing that I had personal trouble with is like finding the sweet spot with my gable grip, because there are ways that you can gable grip that look correct, but they're not. They just feel off. So I would recommend trying to come up high on the shoulder. Make sure that this elbow is past your arm. If we're kind of out here, he's going to be able to slip it, right? So just like the Kimura, our goal is going to be to focus on elbow control and keeping it kind of past our arms. So really like leg locks, right? You want to be have the knee past have the leg past the knee line, right? Got to keep his elbow down there in order for this to work, right? So, and then once we get this gable grip, right, I just want to connect it to my body and start using my core muscles of my legs to move them around and do stuff.
Yeah, this is not your arms anymore. Right, your arms are locked.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, because the guys are going to do that.
Yeah.
So you should. Good drills for this are you can do it from here, right? Somebody's here on hands on the knees. You grab it, and then you should ask your partner, like, can you get your arm out? Right, go back. So you can come here. Yeah, so you can hold it at the top. And then you can grab here. Oh, tricky.
This is the weird one.
Yeah. So
right,
you should
because if you're doing that and I try and just grab here, then I'll slide down. And here, it kind of works if I get under this elbow. So you got to be like super hot with this one until you can get.
And then it'll slide down. Yeah. But you have to practice all of those. Yeah. Right. To just get the feel. You can do this I've seen people do this from standing. I think I've done it from standing, where you just get up. We're here, and the person kind of yes. But see that elbow? It's like you're saying, like once the elbow is here, yeah, you got to get over. You got to get the elbow high. So if you want to here and see, it's the same idea. And then, but a lot of times you go right to the guillotine. But you can do. I've seen other people like take it across, or you can jump into triangles.
I'm trying to think. When I used to do karate, we used to do like club attack defense.
Well, then you got to do the thing, yeah, where you do the Kimura, the Americana over.
Yeah, but nah.
But yeah, this is super effective sweep, good control. Used for a lot of different purposes.
Whenever you're playing guard, they have a little bit too much space in between their elbow and their ribs, so they're reaching for you, right? Or if I'm trying to make.
So I think this is hard to get because you can't get behind the elbow, right? So what happens is from here, you might control it in, right? So you'll want to confirm this. So you don't. One of the things that I think happens for a lot of people is they try to get grips when they're not ready, when they're not good to get, right? So if I just come here or I come underneath, right, like that's not going to happen. Like his elbow's dropped. So if your elbow's dropped, I'm not going to be able to get underneath to do this. There's just not. You're in a good position. So the better option is to keep it, right, and then try to pull it in, and take that. So don't be overly hasty. If you want him to grab your head, right? So if I'm just doing this, you're not going to get underneath it. It's going to be hard. But if you see right there, I put my hand on the ground. So if you confirm the grip or lock that grip in, yeah, and then you just sit back. I'll put my hand down, and now, yes, that's where you got it. You can arm lock me right there. So it's another thing of another idea of how to set things up is to like make the person put their hands on the ground. If you could make the person put the hands on the ground.
So like if I'm coming.
Yes,
here,
and then I go here, and there it is. But look, I'm also up for my legs. So if you wanted to take my leg now, yes.
That's cool.
So that's why when you're not dealing with leg attacks, back before single leg X was such a popular position, people wouldn't always respect that, I think.
But now it's like anytime your hips go up in the air, you've got your alarm bells need to go off. So you're creating several different dilemmas for the person at the same time, right? I can't get my arm free. You put my hands on the ground, my hips go up in the air. You have, you know, upper body sweeps, lower body entries, arm bars. You know, and all of a sudden the possibilities get. You have a big advantage.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. So
it's weird because the best thing to do might be to just take the sweep.
yes.
And that's still a bad option. Out of all those options, it's bad. But at least like if you can just go with it, you can start preparing your escape mid-roll. And you know, once you realize that you're caught and extended, you need to accept your fate and cut your losses and probably just, you know, don't resist the sweep.
Buchecha took the sweep, you know, and then he just worked his way back up.
Yeah.
And that was the smartest move.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a no time limit match. I think Abu Dhabi. No time limit. They just keep going overtimes. If you don't score, they just keep going.
Cool.
And yeah, and if the person scores, what was I going to say? Buchecha, he came back up. I mean, he reset. He didn't just outright lose the match because he didn't let. I don't think he let Gordon get in on the legs. I can't remember too many times where Gordon was actually in on the legs. There was like, I think there was once, and Buchecha had Gordon's leg or his foot, but there wasn't a lot of Gordon being in on the legs because Buchecha was very conservative, just smart.
Yeah.
Because it's Gordon Ryan.
Yeah. If you realize you're getting floated up, you need to prioritize keeping your legs back.
If you watch a lot of, I've been watching a lot based on the conversation we had, or the class we had on Friday, I went back and looked at some tape, not exhaustive, but of, you know, the question that Kevin had on Friday was how to control the legs, right? And we were talking about some of the older entries like the back step. Sometimes you sit down and do a foot lock. And, you know, what was kind of apparent to me is I didn't see anybody just sitting back on a leg lock or on a foot lock. So it was never where they were just passing and like if you're up, right? And then they just take the leg and sit down. Almost never.
Yeah.
Almost never. It's much more in here, and then as you're passing, then the person's taking the legs at that point. You know, so either doing something like that, or they're inverting underneath, right? They're getting to that. They're getting to the single leg X here, and then they're working from this position. And so what they're doing is they're getting the legs. I saw something that was really cool, where I think this was Gordon Ryan against Enrico Coco, right? I was watching a lot of his, but he was here, and I think he just stepped over, right? I watched a lot of the matches. There was one against, they were all against Enrico Coco because he's really good leg defense. And so I watched a couple matches of him against Eddie Cummings. Gordon, very old, like 2015, 2016 footage of him and Gordon Ryan, him against Gary Tonin. And in each case, like it's not like they're sitting down onto a foot lock or anything like that. He gets out of so much anyway, and he can survive for long stretches of time in the positions. Even when they have cross ashi with the leg, with the inside sankaku, he'll sit in there for a while. Like he's very good defensively. But what they're doing is when they enter, they're already accounting for the secondary leg. So there's very difficult for anybody. If you can take care of the secondary leg before you break them down to the hip, then you're really, there's no escape for them. They have to endure until you try to attack the heel.
From the single leg X position, basically.
Yeah, they go single leg X and they'll spin and do different things, but
Or if I'm like,
there were multiple times. Let's say you're in single leg X. All right, whichever one you want. There.
alright, so we're here. So you think I need to address this before?
Well, the people aren't going to give you that, or they're going to fight. So they're going to come here. Yeah, they're going to fight back. Yeah, you go in. Here. Yeah, so if you're here and you have the secondary leg already, now when you take inside sankaku, look at me. I'm broken down to a hip, and you have both my legs. I'm not going anywhere right now. Until the only way I get out is when you let go of my secondary leg in order to attack my primary. That's where the people are going to get out, is when you let go. Okay? There were also a lot of kind of misdirection where they might have There was a couple with Gary, I think was one of them where he had this, go back to, what was it? It was here, they had this, but this leg was also kind of crossed up. Maybe in here, no, go back to the inside Sankaku. Here. And oh, they got crossed up like this. And so what would happen is he would hide this, like he was, but because they had this cross, they would attack the other leg. Right? So if you're in, so the way it would work is, let's say Kevin's got me inside Sankaku, right? He's going to cross my legs. Now Coco's really good, so he's not going to, the good guys are not going to tap to the pain. So he just sits in here. So if you just let go of my secondary leg, right, and let go, then this is where this becomes easier to escape. Mm-hmm. So instead of letting go of this leg, if you cross it over to the other side, here, boom. Now as you go for this one, I'll defend, but look at my other, yes, and that's where you got finished, a couple times. So there's a little misdirection there, and taking advantage of, like you have multiple targets, you can only defend. I mean, once my leg goes like this, and you pitch me over to this hip, this is just floating out in the wind. Yeah. So a lot of transitions, but almost always they're entering in a way that they're working to control both legs before they drop them down to his hips, before they sweep. Okay. Yeah. So it's almost like, in a way, the way they're passing, the way that they're playing guard is they're getting their hips into the right position before the person has a chance to use their secondary leg as a defense. Right? Every time I'm here, right, the typical like terrible thing that people do, everyone makes fun of, is they get to here. But as soon as we're here, this leg is I have nothing, I can hold it, but I'm not gonna be able to beat your leg with my hand. Yeah. And as I sit back, that leg is already out. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think you need to, it's the same thing here, right? If I'm here and I backstep, not only, if it's somebody who's good, they're going to probably do some inside De La Hiva stuff or whatever, or just De La Hiva, Barambola. So, I'm not controlling that leg. So I used to just come here, backstep, and then grab. And that'll still work, right? That'll still work if the person doesn't really know what's happening. Yeah. But the backstep's so common. So, anyway.
I've been doing a thing.
Okay. Yes, please show us.
So from like De La Hiva here, right, or coming in and then hooking and like getting attached to this leg. Mm-hmm. And then from here trying to either step across and start coming across here or getting connected here. Mm-hmm. Trying to see this through. That has nothing to do with anything we're talking about. I just wanted to see if you had any idea about it. I really like this, just being able to.
Well, there's like a calf slicer from here, right? So if that's the first thing I'm thinking of is like, I can't let your legs go over. Yeah. But
then I'm like trying to keep your hips shut down and trying to keep you from floating me, and at the same time, if you like come up into me, I can make this attachment here. Mm-hmm. And just really start to squish this in.
Yeah, this is pretty good.
I don't know. Just ideas.
Yeah. Well, cool. All right. Thank you, Coach Kevin.
Thank you.
See you guys on Wednesday.
Awesome.